It's pretty hard to find somebody who hasn't played or at least become familiar with Horizon Zero Dawn within the last few years. It is one of the PlayStation 4's finest games, and one of the best reasons to own that console. Coming all the way from the Killzone games, which certainly weren't bad at all, but perhaps left a bit to be desired for some, to something as huge and different as Horizon Zero Dawn was truly a Herculean feat on the part of developer Guerrilla. It was an entirely new franchise, with new characters, new environments, and a completely different playstyle. As such, it didn't just fall out of the sky. Horizon Zero Dawn was the result of a lot of hard work and willingness to look at things from a different perspective for the team, and it really put them on the map in a way that the Killzone games, despite how great those were, could never really do. In light of that, it shouldn't be too surprising that Horizon Zero Dawn raked in a boatload of great reviews, moved a ton of PS4s, and left fans eagerly awaiting a sequel. Thankfully, a light does appear to be at the end of this tunnel for those of us who can't get enough of the science fiction world of Aloy and the robotic monsters that always seem to find themselves in her orbit. Horizon 2 Forbidden West is on the way, and thanks to recent info dumps, we know a bit more about the title than we did before. However, many questions are still going unanswered. Most notably, many improvements over the first game that we're hoping to see have yet to be confirmed or even alluded to. While the first Horizon game was a critical hit for a wide range of excellent reasons, there were a small handful of things that held it back a bit. As such, I think it's time we take a look at a few tweaks and changes from which the next Horizon game could surely benefit. Before we begin, please consider subscribing and enabling all notifications by clicking the bell icon. With that out of the way, let's get started. More machine variety. While I don't think anybody was complaining about the machines that were in the first Horizon game in 2017, nor were there many people complaining about the variety of them. For those that played enough of the game to max out Aloy's abilities, many of those battles could start to blend together a bit. Particularly battles with the lower and mid-tier machines. The vast majority of these machines are mammal-based, land-dwelling quadrupeds that can and do lose some of their fun after you've seen them a handful of times. While I do appreciate the sense of progression you get by being able to easily slay a type of machine that gave you a lot of trouble before, I would also have liked the game to have kept me guessing for a bit longer, with more types of them. The amphibian, insect, reptilian, crustacean, and dinosaur worlds could all have been used a bit more to add to the variety of the machines. I would also like to see more machines that use the air or the water than what we got in the first game. From what we've seen of gameplay so far, it does look like Guerrilla has gotten the memo on this to some degree, but I still think it's something worth underlining.
Oh, don't mind me.
More types of traversal. Again, while there is really almost nothing to complain about with how Horizon handles its traversal, and how well it mixes up different types of topography, I would have liked to have seen more there. Many other similar games that predate Horizon Zero Dawn by several years have underwater swimming and exploration. Yet, Horizon only has very basic swimming mechanics that don't actually allow you to do any real exploring underwater. We do see some of that in the trailer for the new game, but we don't see much made of it other than extra eye candy. So here's hoping that underwater exploration is a part of the deal, with underwater paths that might lead to hidden areas or items, etc. I would also like to see the ability to override and mount more machine types to mix up traversal a bit more. Mounting a huge machine like a Thunderjaw would be fun, regardless of how impractical it would be. And of course, being able to ride a flying Stormbird would be a huge plus for not just traversal, but also perhaps discovering new areas that normal pedestrian travel couldn't get you to. Things like this would be a huge help with keeping that sense of discovery all the way to the end, and even past the credits. A more straightforward story. The tale of Horizon Zero Dawn would be hard to tell without getting a bit complicated. A lore containing the extinction of humanity at the hands of machines they built, and the repopulation of Earth guided by an insanely complex system of AIs and subroutines, would not be told well if it were too simple. A side effect of that, of course, is the sense of an obtuse story that doesn't make a lot of sense until an exposition dump at the end of the game explains everything. Most of those who are willing to give constructive critiques about Horizon will admit that they spent much of the first game confused about what exactly was going on in the world. So while I understand and always enjoy a good mystery, that lore is established now. We don't need to necessarily get more complicated from here. In fact, given that Horizon 2 takes place in a separate section of the country than the first, its story could be entirely self-contained. Either way, the Hades subroutine looking to upend the terraforming process could be all that really needs focused on here, at least in the macro story. I'm all about complex interpersonal developments between characters with conflicting agendas, but in terms of the overall lore of this second game, I think it could benefit from a premise and story that doesn't take nearly as long to explain and understand as the original game's story does. I'm sure it's tempting to go in all sorts of directions with the lore of Horizon, especially for the skilled writers at Guerrilla, but at the same time, if that energy were to be focused in on the characters more and left the lore of the series to remain as a foundation for those interpersonal stories, I think the motivations of those characters could be much easier to empathize with, thus creating a more salient experience for those of us looking to be engaged more often than perplexed. Better melee combat. This is another one that it appears Guerrilla is already aware of and taking steps to make happen. If there was any universally accepted weak point of Horizon's combat, then it would have to be the melee fighting. Aloy's hand-to-hand combat doesn't really change much throughout the whole game, and it basically goes from being useless at the beginning to being totally OP by the end. Given the amount of variety that was in the projectiles, the ho-hum melee combat sticks out like a sore thumb at times. From what we saw with the recent gameplay reveal, it does look like Aloy's attacks are a lot more fluid and dynamic, especially with that special blast that was used to shake off a heavy enemy once charged up. But I'm hoping they go even further with perhaps different charge attack types and a combo system that actually evolves in more ways than just doing more damage. Outside of that, there really isn't a whole lot to ask for from the next Horizon game other than more of what they've already done. Given what we already know about the game and how dependable Guerrilla has shown themselves to be, I'd say the odds are good that we're going to get what we want on that front. But hopefully, if they can take a couple things back to the drawing board and make them better, we can get a true evolution of the first game that will make us just as excited for a third Horizon as we currently are for the second one. And with that, we reached the end of the video. Have anything to say? Let us know in the comments below. Also, we upload new videos every single day on GamingBolt, so please consider subscribing as it really helps us out. Thanks for watching.